Devon Achane broke out in 2024. His speed is unreal. The burst is blinding, but it wasn't just the big runs. He led all running backs in receiving yards, and he looked downright lethal in space. When this guy gets even a sliver of daylight, he turns it into fireworks. But as electric as he is, there's still a question mark around his consistency as a runner, but it's not always his fault either. Miami's run blocking was shaky at times, and it clearly impacted his rhythm and reliability between the tackles. So in today's film breakdown, we're diving into the highs, the hiccups, and everything in between to figure out if Achane is truly built to be a long-term fantasy RB1 in our Dynasty leagues.
Hey.
Alright guys, before we get into this first play from Devon Achane, I want to give you guys a brief breakdown of him as a player if you guys aren't super familiar with his game. So at 5'9", 188 pounds, he definitely lacks the size, the prototypical size of being a workhorse running back. He did have over 200 carries this year, didn't miss any games, so that is promising, even though he did miss some games in his rookie year. But nonetheless, he is an electric speed athlete. 4.32 40-yard dash, 100th percentile. Height and weight adjusted speed scores 88th percentile. But then you look at the burst score there, 17th percentile. That definitely pops up on the film. He's not the quickest accelerator in my opinion. And once he gets to full speed, he is not being caught by anybody, but he's not the quickest accelerator, which I found interesting considering how fast everybody hypes him up to be. So he is only 23 years old. He'll probably be 24 before the season starts. He was a third-round pick out of Texas A&M, and while he was at Texas A&M, he was one of the most efficient backs in the country. And when he got drafted in the third round, he came to the Dolphins and basically kept up that efficiency metric. He led the entire NFL in yards per carry in 2023 and was just an electric playmaker. Had only like 100 carries, had over 800 yards and a ton of touchdowns, so that was very impressive. Now, in terms of Achane as a runner, he's pretty much mainly utilized on these outside concepts just because the offensive line for the Dolphins was so poor, and you'll see that all over the place. But in terms of his receiving upside, guys, he led all running backs in receiving yards last year. He was second in targets among running backs. He is utilized in the screen game a ton. He just has a ton of upside. But let's go ahead and get into this first play from Devon Achane. And this is just a typical play that the Dolphins run all the time. It's just a stretch concept. You got all your guys blocking in one direction. And it's what they call hats on hats, which means everybody's got an assignment. Don't mess it up, or the play will not work. And then you have Washington here, number 83. He's coming in motion. The Dolphins use a ton of motion, and he's just going to run back, get that headway going, and then run into whoever he ends up getting blocked. And you're going to see some amazing elusiveness from Achane, and that's something that shows up on film a decent amount. So let's go ahead and see this. I'll go ahead and play it all the way through for the first time here. See Washington in motion here. Ball snaps. Achane, boop, cuts back, spin. 15-yard gain. Actually has to get a little bit of extra yards with his feet as well. So let's go ahead and break this down a little bit further. So you're going to see Achane, boom. He picks the right hole. Obviously 74 here does not get the job done. He misses his assignment completely. This guy's just a little bit faster for him, so Achane has to cut it back. Beautiful cut there. And then makes this guy miss with a beautiful spin move. And then you got three guys on him. Tyreek Hill's a dog trying to stay in there. Love Tyreek Hill's run blocking, which is weird because he's very undersized. But you're going to see him use those legs, churn those legs of his. Even though he's not the biggest back, he falls forward for about 4 extra yards. So this is a beautiful play. Kind of showcases a lot of the things that I like in Achane's game. And yeah, this is just a beautiful play from Devon Achane. All right, in this next play, it just goes to show you how dangerous he can be. All it takes is one slip up from the defense, and he's taking it to the house. So Devon Achane in this play is going to be on a toss play to the right. You're going to have Alec Ingold, who is a absolute monster fullback, lead blocking for him. He actually doesn't even use Ingold's lead block because he ends up taking this hole right here. And you're going to see what happens when the safety, in this case, former all-pro safety Huang Funga for the 49ers, he's just going to take a slightly bad angle, and Achane makes him pay for it. ends up taking it 50 yards to the house. So you're going to see, picks the right hole there, gets skinny through the hole, and look, he just bites down just a little bit too much, and Achane takes it to the outside. You do not have a chance to catch him. He's not even running full speed here. He knows he had the defense beat as soon as he took that angle. So one more time here. All he takes is to over pursue just a little bit. Tyreek Hill actually does pretty well on the block here. Look at that. That's beautiful work there. I know Seven's calling, Chardavius Ward's calling for the holding here, but I think that would be a soft call. But yeah, that's just showcasing some burner speed from De'Von Achane there. Look at that. Boom. He doesn't have the biggest burst, but like once he gets in stride and he can beat you with his feet, man, it is over. It's a wrap, and he's taking it to the house. That's a beautiful play from De'Von Achane. It wouldn't be an Achane film breakdown without showcasing his elite receiving chops. I mean, you can't lead all running backs in receiving yards without being really good in the passing game, and Achane absolutely is. So this is going to be a very interesting play concept from the Dolphins. You're going to see him kind of come out on this flat route and then come back in on this angle route. And you're going to see, I want to say, the guard in the center coming out to lead block for him on this screen. And it works perfectly. He has to fight through a little bit of contact here, but he's able to go 14 yards and a touchdown against a pretty solid Packers defense. So let's go ahead and check this out. Comes out on this flat route, explodes off that foot on a very good cut here. And he's able to fight through that tackle attempt from the corner and go right into the end zone. And that's just something that they utilize him on a lot. They utilize the screens because why wouldn't you? If you have a guy that runs a 4.32 40 and he's just electric in space, you want to get him out in space and get him as much room and daylight as possible so he can get a touchdown. And that's exactly what Achane is elite at doing. If you give him any amount of space, he's going to cook you, and that's exactly what he does on this play versus the Packers. So there's plenty of other plays that I could showcase here for his receiving upside, but this is just one of the ones where I think it just utilizes a good route here, and he's able to follow his blocks really cleanly, and overall just a good showcase of receiving skills from Achane. In this next play, it's the first bad play that I have picked out for Achane, and it's his inconsistencies with his vision. And I think this is a touchdown waiting to happen if he makes one cut one way instead of trying to get skinny through the hole. So you're going to see this is an outside zone play from the Dolphins. I think this is supposed to be outside zone by the way it's blocked. And basically you're supposed to work on the C gap, B gap, then the A gap here. And I think Achane, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. If he just makes one cut, like we've seen him make cuts in the first few clips, I think this is a touchdown. So he gets it, and obviously C-gap's not here because the leverage isn't here. And then he thinks, I guess, that this guy's going to block for him here, but it just doesn't make sense to get real skinny. This is just not a big enough hole to get skinny through. But look at this, guys. If he just cuts one way this way, he's got a block here. He's got this guy basically out of the play. All he's got to do is beat number 9 here, and that's a touchdown, I think. And instead, he just goes straight through the hole. Yeah, he gets a yard, but, I mean, this is the red zone, guys. We got to come up with points here. And he just falls forward for a couple yards instead. I think if he just assessed his situation just a little bit quicker, I think he would have saw this hole. But he doesn't, and he ends up getting skinny through a hole that was not there instead of getting a potential touchdown if he cuts back into the A gap. All right, guys, before we get into this last play from De'Von Achane, I want to go over some of my notes that I took on him while watching all of his film. So the first thing that breaks off on the screen for you is the breakaway speed. I mean, he is elite fast. Once he gets to his full speed, he is very hard to catch. And you see that on film time and time again. He's got some solid elusiveness. The spin moves like you saw in the first clip. The jukes, he does have some sweet feet when he's in space. Now, once it gets congested, his feet get a lot worse, but if he's trying to make people miss in the open field, he's very good at that. Solid elusiveness. He's great at following his blocks on outside run concepts. So your outside zones, your toss plays, your stretch concepts. That's how they mainly utilize him. In this play, it's a counter play, and they do use that from time to time, the counter play, but overall, they use him mainly on the outside concepts just because his vision is kind of spotty. We'll get to that in a little bit on the inside concepts. He's got some elite receiving upside. They use him on screens. They'll throw dump offs to him, and he just gets into open space and just will cook defenses. If he gets any sliver of daylight, it is over. You better tackle him or he's going to score a touchdown. So those are the good things that I saw. Let's go into some of the bad. So he doesn't have the best burst. You know, when you see a 4.32 40-yard dash, you would think that he would be very bursty. You see that in his burst score, which I think was 11th percentile. Achane does not have the best burst at all. And I don't know if that's because of just his athleticism or if it's him trying to look for the hole and he's not really, focusing on his explosiveness. I'm not sure, but it definitely limits him on what he can do on a lot of these plays, just because he's kind of slow when he first gets the ball. So that's something that I saw that was pretty concerning. And his vision, if he's not on stretch concepts and things like that, his vision is pretty spotty, very inconsistent, especially on the inside zones where he's got to read 3 different gaps. He just doesn't seem like he's very used to that. Obviously, he's very young and he can always develop and get better, but as of right now, his vision's very spotty. And the last thing, he's horrible at being used on the inside. They cannot use him on the inside. They cannot use him on inside zones, dive plays, things like that. They just can't use him on that. The power plays especially. And I will say, I kind of give him a slight pass for this because his guard play was horrible last year. The offensive line in general wasn't that great. He's got Alec Ingold, who's a very good blocking fullback, but outside of that, the run blocking was very spotty. I think he was 5th or 4th in the entire league in stuffed runs because the offensive line was so horrible. So that is some of the stuff that I saw. So let's get into the play. This is a counter play. They use this a lot on Achane just because they'll fake the inside zone. They'll get a little happy on the inside, and then they'll kick it out to the outside. That's basically the gist of this play. And you're going to see, I'll go ahead and play this one all the way through. And you just see it's just very slow. Yes, he gets hit a little bit by 65, but he just doesn't have the power or the acceleration to just get into the end zone. They're on the 1-yard line. He's got a wide open hole here, and he just can't get into it. He can't extend himself to get to the goal line or anything like that. It just kind of showcases its limitation in the power department. I'm not going to knock him too much for that just because not every back has to be Derrick Henry and power through people. That's not his game, but I would like to see a little bit more of, leg churning and just getting himself into the end zone. And with Ollie Gordon coming in the 6th round, I think a lot of these opportunities for Achane are going to go away, and they're going to be given to Ollie Gordon, who is a massive back, or Alexander Madison, who's also on the roster. So I think a lot of his touchdown upside, especially on the goal line, is going to be capped this year. So overall, I think Achane's a sell because I like some of the other running backs that are lower down the ADP than him, like Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, those types of backs. I like them a lot more for fantasy. They're way more consistent. But I will say he is a dynamic weapon in fantasy. If he keeps getting those dump offs, he's amazing, but his running game is just very limited and very inconsistent for my liking. So I think he's a sell, but overall, I like what I saw on his film for the most part, but there are definitely some limitations. And that wraps up the film on De'Von Achane. He's one of the most exciting young backs in Dynasty, but there's real things to weigh in with his usage and long-term outlook. Let me know in the comments, are you buying or staying cautious with Achane? If you enjoyed the breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. And if you want to talk Dynasty all day, every day, join the Bobby's Big Board Discord. The link is in the description as always. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.